Agency meeting for Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018. Roll call, please.
Donna Corbin-Zabinski,
Here.
Kevin Zorda,
Here.
Virginia Higley here, Robert Chagnon absent, James Smith absent, Carrie Ann Wagner-Howe,
Here.
Marie Pisner,
Here.
Kelly Hemler,
Here.
Marcy Talicio absent.
Okay, I'd like to seat the alternates, as we are missing people. Fire evacuation procedures. In the event of emergency, if you could exit the door to the left, my left, and go down the stairs and away from the building. And the other option is to go through the door in the back of the room and, again, away from the building. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do have a new Journal Inquirer staff writer person with us, Caleb. Is that
Caleb.
Caleb? Okay, sorry about that. Yes. Well, thank you. Welcome. Public participation. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak regarding items not on the agenda? Okay.
My name is Tracy Clark.
Yeah. Have a seat and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tracy Clark, and I'm here about 57 Kimberly Drive.
57. Okay.
I received a cease and desist order on some landscaping in my backyard.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
So I'm here particularly about the application and checklist. I don't have the resources to fill out this checklist, and I don't know what is exactly required of it.
Okay. She has a checklist.
I have it here.
Yeah, she does. Our staff should be
You
able to
did
help
meet
you with
with
that.
Rick
I met
Rochelle
with him
today.
today, yes.
Right,
Actually, I
and-
met with him a couple weeks ago also.
Right. So staff has endeavored to assist the applicant, but she feels that the application requires more than she should be required to present to you. This is the dumping of the materials down the
Oh, yes,
escarpment.
yep.
So when I did find out she was coming tonight, I didn't know if, since this part of the agenda is normally just making a statement, whether if you wanted to, like, move it to the end of your agenda and add it, she could come back after your other items and discuss it with you, or,
That'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, so if you want to wait, and they'll take care of their public hearing items, and then you could come back and discuss it with the commission.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So Kimberly Drive.
57.
Drive. Okay, so we'll add you at the end. Okay, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak regarding items not on the agenda? Again, anybody like to speak regarding items not on the agenda? Okay, moving forward. Correspondence. We received a permit for application for the use of pesticide water in state waters from Connecticut Deep. And that is for Pappas Pond on One Riverview Road. So we have that. We did get a save the date from the town attorney regarding some training that they'd like to have for the land use. Please mark your calendars and try to make sure you attend. It's very important that we get our training in. So that's important. That's my save the date. We did also get another notice from the town attorney dated March 28th regarding the items that are in review, in legal review, updating us on that. And get that and that and that. Okay, and that would be it for correspondence. Is there any commissioners' correspondence or site visits or anything? Nope. Okay, moving forward. Approval of meeting minutes from March 20th.
I move to accept the minutes for March 2nd, 27th meeting?
March 20th.
March 20th meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
I made some changes.
Yeah, you need to speak, say those. Turn your speak, yeah.
I sent them to the staff, so I think they already made the changes.
Okay, but for the record, the date, one of them was dated February 6th. It needs to be March 20th, 2018.
There
And
was
then-
one typo.
And there was one typo. I don't remember what paragraph it was,
It was, I think, page 4 on the top.
page 4 on the top. We had the word "they" in there twice.
Correct.
I don't remember where it was. Did you get the? Yeah, you did. Okay, so you'll make those corrections?
And I had made a comment in that, in that week that I had mentioned, I had asked the applicant if there was a chance of any erosion on the escarpment, and they said no, because they're going to be putting trees there.
Okay. So that needs to be added as well.
What page was that you
Yeah.
saw?
Of course,
That correction had to be made, do you know?
left it in the car.
I believe Raquel said that
I don't
those
think that
changes were made.
I don't think that one was part of it. Okay, I guess all but 3 of them are made.
Yeah, I didn't remember the escarpment one.
Well, I rewatched it to make sure that I wasn't imagining it. Yeah, it's page 4, third paragraph. It mentions a question that I had asked, and then I had asked if there was going to be a chance of any erosion, and they said no.
Thank you. Okay. Any more discussion? No, seeing none, roll call?
Donna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Virginia, yes. Carrie?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
6 in favor, motion passes for the amended version. Okay, old business. We have IW 585, 0 King Street, application for proposed development consisting of 2 buildings, a 500,225 square foot distribution building of warehouse space and office space, and a 100 and 125 square foot flex building. DF Realty LLC, owner applicant, map 016, lot 0108, industrial 1, I1 zone. Okay, so this was a public hearing that we closed at our last meeting on the 20th. So now it's time to have some discussion and,
Yep, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I, as a staff responsibility, just for the benefit of those watching and in the audience, staff prepares a draft resolution or resolutions for commissions to consider, and the commission is free to amend or change or whatever based upon their interpretation and review of the record. So at the last meeting, we had a draft resolution, which was also shared with the applicant at that meeting. And then after the last public hearing and additional information came out, we revised that resolution and sent it out with a packet for this meeting. And then today, in response to the chair's question with respect to the 6 pages that were apparently inadvertently left off the packet, we added an additional resolution in. And so staff has put forward for the commission's consideration and discussion tonight a 13-page document which lists all of the materials and also and has some 35 proposed conditions of approval. And in addition, for the benefit of the commission, Jen updated and revised the list of everything that's in the file.
which is a long list. Thank you. So, are we ready to make a little motion and then have some discussion, or?
All right. I will make a motion that the Enfield Inland Wetland and Watercourse Agency approve IW 585 0 King Street, Metro Park North Whereas the Enfield Inland Wetland and Watercourse Agencies has received an application for a proposed development consisting of two buildings, 500,225 square feet distribution building of warehouse space and office space, and a 100,125 square foot flex building located at 0 King Street, map 16, lot 108. And whereas public hearings were held on December 19th, 2017, January 16th, 2018, February 6th, 2018, February 20th, 2018, March 6th, 2018, and March 20th, 2018. Whereas revised plans dated February 22nd have been received and reviewed. Whereas the agency has determined that the proposal, as modified by the conditions contained in this resolution, protect wetlands and watercourses consistent with the Enfield Wetland and Watercourses regulations. And whereas the commission has had considered the criteria for decision contained in Section 10 of the Enfield Inland Wetland and Watercourses regulations, and the applicant has demonstrated that there will be minimal loss of wetland or watercourse resources, and the applicant has demonstrated that the proposed development will not have an adverse impact on wetlands or watercourses outside of the area to be developed. I'm not going to read off all the referenced plans because we would be here till midnight have I done that. But this will contain our general conditions, which on this sheet is 13 through 21. Conditions prior to the start, which are 22 through 35. And then site-specific conditions are the cover sheet of the plans must be revised to list all plans and the latest revision dates. As number 2, as the plans submitted contain minimal building elevation drawings or information on buildings such as roof materials or the existence of floor drains, and as the plans do not list a specific use, the commission reserves the right to determine the need for a permit modification once the above information is determined and available. Number 3, tree cutting in the wetland upland review area will be limited to only areas required for construction activities in the wetlands. And I would like to add that special care be taken to preserve and protect any elms on site. Stripping, number 4, stripping of topsoil will be limited to only those areas needed for construction activities. As the quality of downstream Bowens Brook is highly dependent on regular maintenance of the stormwater system and sweeping of the parking lots, the applicant will submit an annual operations and maintenance report to the Wetlands Commission on April 15th of each year. And we wanted to add for a period of no less than 3 years. In the event that such a report is not timely filled and or the maintenance is not performed, the property owner will be required to post an annual maintenance bond for the parking lot sweeping and the stormwater maintenance requirements. Number 6, hydrodynamic separators will be installed in all 8 stormwater management basins, including the one proposed on the east of the larger building. Number 7, the detail sheets will contain specifications for the hydrodynamic separators. Number 8, the requirements of the town engineer dated March 16, 2018 will be incorporated on the final plans, including cut and fill recommendations, materials testing for any materials brought in on site, and town infrastructure standards. Number 9, final plans will include the comparison map of the official wetland map versus the field delineated wetlands. Number 10, the project will observe a 200-foot wetland buffer for Bowens Brook as required in the Enfield Inland Wetlands and Watercourse regulations. Number 11, the 100-car parking lot on the north property line will be reduced by at least 50 spaces by reducing the total spaces to the minimum required by zoning and utilizing the 25% compact car spaces provision of the Enfield zoning regulations. Number 12, the 6 pages DN sheets 14 through 19 of the site plan set, which were included in the set dated January 2nd, 2018, but were omitted in the set dated February 22nd, 2018, must be included in the final plan submission. We would also like to add that the applicant take appropriate and required action to ensure the safety and care concerning eastern box and wood turtles or any otherwise endangered species according to the DEP recommended protection strategy. That would be 13.
Yep.
Number 14, that specifically we put in there that no truck washing will be done on site. And number 15, all wetland areas adjacent to paved areas shall be marked with signage indicating no snow storage. Did I miss anything?
I don't think you missed anything. No. Yeah.
I will second.
Okay, thank you. Can we have discussion then? I'd like to start off by thanking the applicants for all their hard work and efforts that they put into this. They did reach out to the neighbors, had a meeting with the neighbors to get some input from them, and they did, come back with feedback to address all their concerns. They also met with the staff on numerous occasions and addressed their concerns, as well as the Conservation Commission's concerns and efforts, and of course, all our concerns and efforts. So I do want to say thank you for that. They did very well with that. These plans are consistent with the plans of the conservation and development that was set up by the town and adopted by the town a few years ago. This is an industrial site. It's important to the town, and they have it in their plans for that type of conservation and development. So I think that's something to take note of, and it's a high priority piece of property that they wanted developed by the town. I know that they're going to be working with DEEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, especially regarding the state and federal listed endangered species that you mentioned, and the breeding grounds and habitat areas. So that'll be good point. And this property was, as somebody pointed out to us, was previously approved under IW 514 as a shovel-ready property. The buildings are a little bit different, but it did go through and get approvals through us and the P&Z, so I think that's also an added item here. But I would like to hear everybody else's comments and.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think the applicant did take a lot of time, listened to what was said, and made significant changes from the original proposal to protect wetlands, and I applaud them for that.
Mm-hmm.
I would also have to agree with that. I wasn't at a bunch of the meetings, but I did extensively watch the videos multiple times and read all of the materials over and over again. The applicant was very receptive to what he was hearing from, the public and the neighbors and what we had to say, and that is greatly appreciated.
I know how much work, I can only imagine how much work this must have taken. It took me a long time to go through the plans and the documents. I do have concerns, though, on the actual approval. I know that they're no longer proposing new wetland creation areas, but they plan to enhance the existing areas on site. That, to me, is too general. And I'm glad that they looked at reducing the parking area. Okay. I know that at the last meeting, Roger asked if they would be bringing in fill, and Mr. Carlson replied that they will be bringing in some materials which will meet specifications. But whose specifications? You know, I understand we're limited in what we can look at, but I'm just looking at Bowens Brook. I also mentioned in the meeting before last that I asked one of the applicants if they would consider starting with one building. They didn't have, this is all proposed, and I'm sure it will fill up fast, but I thought it would be wiser to start with one building and see how it affects everything. And those are my concerns, and I think you're right, it is Industrial 1, it will be developed, but I'd like to see it developed safely.
I do believe we do have a landscape plan that lists the quantities.
Yeah.
There was a landscape plan.
There was a landscape plan. I remember one.
So it listed the species and the native species, and you know me, that's
Yeah.
the first
Oh,
thing.
no. Are you talking about the enhanced?
It included some of that too, yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
all I was concerned about.
Yeah, Commissioner, there is it's actually quite extensive plantings
Yeah.
in the wetlands.
Yeah.
And I always remember the testimony from the woman who presented it, and she said, I've planted this up quite a bit, I think. was
Yeah,
the-
she did.
was the words.
Yeah, she planted it more than normally would considered, and they were all native species and wetland species.
Yeah. And they will be testing the fill and any materials brought in.
If any.
If any is brought in, they'll have to.
Oh, they will be bringing
Yeah.
in materials.
Yeah.
Well,
if they bring,
necessary.
if necessary. If they bring it in, they will be.
No, they said they will be bringing in some materials. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe we have to
what-
double check the record, but I believe they said that it should be pretty neutral. But the material that they may have to bring in would be like for the construction entrance, you know, the rock for that, and anything like that backing it.
Yeah, that's not us, that's the
Right.
construction, that's
Exactly.
the engineering department, it's a construction pad.
Right.
I would just like to say, as Carrie did, I did miss the last two meetings, but I did watch them as you did, and I got all the materials brought to me. And I have to say, even comparing all the materials that brought, I mean, everything that was asked for was given to us. So, again, thank you. A lot of hard work, and that's it. Thank you.
I just wanted to express our appreciation for the public. They came out numerous times. They had a lot of really good information, brought a lot of things to our attention. A lot of the concerns that they expressed were actually more planning and zoning. I mean, we can only rule on wetlands. So, but I can definitely see both sides. I understand that through the Conservation Commission, this is considered an industrial area. My biggest concern is that industrial is very broad. I mean, it could be anywhere from just an office building to a manufacturing plant. So that's my concern, and I want to make sure that it's in our resolution that we are able to, before anything actually, any tenant actually goes in there, that we have some say over that, because that could.
Well, that's not us, that's
not us.
zoning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it have an impact on the environment if it was a manufacturing?
No.
Well, if I could, there is one paragraph in there.
Yeah,
that-
one of the
that-
first ones.
There is a
Yeah, we
paragraph
do have a
that-
caveat in
that
there, if subject to
that
further
if-
review if necessary.
That if some red flag went up, you get to see it to determine whether it needs to come back.
Yeah.
The Commission reserves the right to determine the need for a permit modification once the above information is determined available.
Yeah, I did read that. I was just expressing that I wanted us to be able to review anything once they figure out who's going in there, because it could make it, to me, I thought it would be an impact on the environment.
Well, if they bring something in that is going to be a big impact to the environment, they have to come back. They have to come back.
And
Yeah. Anything
And-
more than what we've already discussed and talked about.
And wetlands can always send a memo to planning and zoning and ask that there be no outside storage unless it's run past staff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So if they do anything that impacts wetlands, they would have to come back, compared to what we've already discussed and talked about and agreed to.
Yep.
Yeah. Any more discussion? Any more comments? Okay. So I guess we could do a roll call.
Donna,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Virginia, no. Carrie Ann,
Yes.
Marie,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and that's it.
Okay. 5 in favor, 1 against. Motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck. Okay. Move this out of the way. Okay. Next on the agenda is new business. Site plan review, IW 588, 243 Shaker Road. Application for modification of wetlands permit for the construction of 3 additional sand towers and the expansion of the front entry vestibule. Yankee Casting Company Incorporated, owner applicant, map 95, lot 0006, industrial 2, I2 zone. Hi.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dana Steele. I am a professional engineer with J.R. Russo and Associates. And with me tonight is Stephen Farrow, who is the general contractor for Yankee Casting, which is the applicant and owner for this particular application. We received a wetland approval for this site previously in 2016. That was to replace a building that burned down, and that building is now up and is nearing completion. It's basically done.
Okay.
In the course of the construction, the owner decided that instead of one pad of sand towers, it was a pad that had 2 sand towers on it. I think initially it was sort of a progress. Initially it was 1 sand tower, then it was 2 sand towers, and that's what was approved, was 2, but it was 1 pad, so it was a little. It looked like it's just 1, but it's on that 1 pad there were 2 towers proposed. Then now they've decided that they want 2 more, so they have another pad similar to it right next to it. So now there'd be a total of 4 towers on 2 pads. So that is a change that has not been approved, and that's one reason why we submitted an application recently. The other was the front entry vestibule on the front of the building was shown on the site plan as 5 by 7, and apparently the building code requires it to be 7 feet wide, not 5 feet wide. So that's another change. So we came back to you for a modification for those 2 items. Then we ended up withdrawing that application. The reason for that is, in between the time we submitted that application, the building was getting done, and we were then preparing the final as-built for the site to show compliance from all of the approved conditions. And in the course of reviewing that as-built, we identified several other minor changes that were not on the plan. So if you'd like, I can go over to the plan and take you through what some of those changes are.
Please do.
So there's going to be 4 towers?
Yes.
That's correct. Four towers.
Dana, are these the same plans that you gave to us that we distributed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Same plans.
Is this the same size?
So these are the same plans you should have in your packet. I'm going to draw your attention to sheet 3, which is the site plan. And I've colored this one up just to identify the site. The areas in green are the wetlands. They were marked by John Ianni with the previous wetland approval. His report is included in the packet as well. The wetlands follow the boundary of the property and then head off of the property to the west. So to the north side and the west side are basically following the property line or off the property. The only wetlands that are on the property are these detention basins. There's one here that is connected to the existing ditch along the road. This is a private road. That's why the address is Shaker Road, 243 Shaker Road, even though it's way off of Shaker Road. But this is a private road, and there's a drainage ditch that runs along it. That because it's so flat, water tends to pond in it, settle there, and so it develops a wetland characteristic because of how wet it is. It stays wet. So there's cattails and things like that growing in it, but it's basically a drainage ditch. John Ianni in his report indicated the function of this ditch is to convey stormwater. That's the function, and that function is being maintained. The yellow line is the 100-foot regulated area around the site, so you can see that all of the front of the site, all the parking lot in the front is in a regulated area, and most of the new building is not in the regulated area. But there are some minor changes, as I mentioned, to the site that we picked up on the as-built and brought it to the town's attention, and so we felt it was best to withdraw our application, come back in with a plan that shows everything, so we're not coming back to you twice. So we apologize for withdrawing, but we think this is a more efficient way to just deal with everything at once. So this is the second sand tower pad in the back. You can see it's not in the regulated area. The first pad is there with the 2 towers. And this would provide 2 more for a total of 4 towers, this pad here. The building department also wanted all the egress doors around the building to have not just a concrete landing at the door, but a sidewalk from that landing to get to a paved area. So that's what all these pink areas, and they even wanted it on the existing building that we weren't changing, but they wanted that. So we added, there was sidewalks added here, here. In the front, there's 1, 2, 3 of them. One on the north side, two on the west side, and then 3 on the south side of Building B, as it's called on the site plan. In addition to that, there were utility services are being provided to the building. In the course of review with Eversource, provide electric service to the building. They looked at the power being provided and determined that a transformer was needed. So that's this pink area here on the east side of the building. It's in the grass area between the parking lot and the building. There's some bollards that are put around it to protect it as well. Then on the north side of the new building is a mechanical air conditioning unit that's set on a concrete pad. That was not shown on the previous plan either. So these are all changes within the already disturbed area within the developed site. It's not an expansion of the footprint of this development, but they are nonetheless, some of them changes, some of them in the regulated area. The other change that was made, probably most relevant to the wetlands, is we had initially showed this building as it was before, the roof runoff sheeting off into across the front, the front area, and then into the drainage ditch. And instead they took those roof leaders and they piped them to the drainage ditch. So there's a pipe that runs under the parking lot right into the ditch. And I went out and looked at it, and my only concern was that the pipe was coming right into the ditch and there was no erosion protection for it. So I'm recommending that riprap be installed as part of this application to provide some protection for that. There was no evidence of erosion at the time, but I think that it's appropriate for that to put the riprap in. This is something they should have come to you first rather than doing it. I would agree with that. The pipes could be cut off and we could go back to what was approved last time. My feeling is this is an improvement. It's better from a safety standpoint. You don't have water flowing across. Plus, the roof water is generally considered to be cleaner, and so by bypassing the parking lot, you're not mixing it with the say the water that have some contaminants potentially in it, as the parking lot can. That is continuing to sheet flow, continuing to run through the vegetated area. And by the way, before the way this site was before we received your first approval, there was a driveway between these two islands, so there was more pavement in the front, and the pavement was going. It was more direct runoff right into those ditches. I don't think those ditches have a lot of habitat value because they're just for stormwater conveyance, but nonetheless, it's we don't want to make enter any additional pollutants to it because it can make its way downstream. Eventually, it gets into this larger wetland, which is of greater value. So we think we improved it last time, and we don't think this change is going to take a step back in that regard. And we think it's actually it makes sense. I think we were trying to keep it simple last time, but thinking it through, we really should have proposed that, I think, to begin with. But that's not an excuse for them doing it before getting approval. All I can say is when we did our as-built, we identified it and we brought it to the town's attention so that we could resolve the problem. If you're not happy with it, we can have a discussion, address it. But I do think this is a good thing. So I think those are the only changes being proposed. It's really just a lot of it code issue things, utility issue things, and then an improvement to drainage. So are there any questions, or can I help clarify anything that I've said?
Actually, there is one point. You mentioned that there's really only the two portions of wetlands on the side.
Mm-hmm.
There is actually wetlands on this property on the northern side. If
Yes.
you look at the property line,
Yes.
there is a strip of wetlands there.
That's true. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I said it was following the property line and then moves off of the property line, but some of it, there is wetlands on, just for the record, there is wetlands on the north and the west side as well.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm not familiar with sand towers, and just for my own benefit so I can make an informed decision, I would like to know what the contents of the sand towers have, how they're contained. You know, are they just buildings and you pile things into them like a silo, and are they ever going to be removed?
There's one sand tower there now on the existing building that we did, the MAG building that we didn't remodel. No, the building all the way over to the right. Yep. Eventually, that's going to come down and go over to the other side of the new building.
But
They're
how-
just metal towers that contain the sand that they use for their molds.
I think silo is a good word for it.
Yeah.
It looks like a silo.
Yeah.
I tried looking it up online, and it just...
And I believe
had-
the height, you can't even, it's not above the height of the new building, it's below
Well,
that.
I'm happy that there's some kind of containment. My concern was if water runoff.
It's just
so
sand
that-
in the
yeah.
towers. Just
Is it just sand, or it's not mixed with like
It gets mixed
oil?
later.
Later?
It's
Okay.
mixed inside the building with whatever product they use to bind it. It's a binder. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about that, but it's done inside the building.
Okay. And then what happens to that later?
They're in the process of, I can't speak too much to that. We built the building. They have a sand reclamation room in there, and that's
Okay.
where they're supposed to be reclaiming it
Okay.
once they get all their
I
equipment.
remember it was a while ago, so I don't remember. I remember they did describe what they do with it, whether they burn it off or something, reuse it or something.
Some of it's being shipped off now. I don't know
Okay.
where it goes. The deal was not to make the pile bigger than what's there,
Okay.
and that's what they've been working on. And then once the sand reclamation goes in, they should be able to reduce the level of the pile.
Right. Yeah, that's just my only concern is that when you have one tower and you have that amount of stuff, when they add 4 towers, obviously they're increasing their production and there could be more.
Yes.
So we might want to, if we
It's not
approve it
coming
with,
back out into the towers or anything.
well, if it's coming out, If it's reused, it's put in.
Does it come out to be reused?
Correct me if I'm
So-
wrong, Steve, but my understanding is they're not allowed to take any of the sand that they use today and put it
That's
outside.
correct. That's correct.
There is sand that's still out there that hasn't been removed yet. They're in the process of that, trying to find locations where they can put it. They're working with DEP, and DEP's on them to make sure that they follow through on that. So but they're
Okay.
not allowed to add.
That
to
was
it.
my question.
Okay,
is,
so
are they
they-
going to be reducing this limits of casting refuse that's shown?
Yeah, eliminate, okay.
So the,
Yeah, so
the
that-
purpose of the other pad is so that we can finish the project, put the pad in. There's gonna be one tower to start with. As their process grows, they got a nice new building now, and they move the other tower, all of that stuff's gonna happen in steps, not all at once.
Okay.
They get their sand reclamation unit running, another tower goes up.
Good.
We did provide a draft resolution for you, and we included I think there was only one site-specific condition from the previous application that was approved under IW number 577 that said that they had to have erosion control measures in place for the sand pile that's on the property. Also, all of the application materials, they have IW 577 on there because that was the original application number. When you guys came in the last time for the application that you withdrew, we gave you a number that was 588. So,
We'll change that.
yeah, if you guys could change that and for the final submissions as well.
The standard town notes was on the previous plan. It's not on this one, so I'll add those two. That's already listed on here.
I'm sure John Kabibbo would like that.
It's gonna be 588.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be under 588, yeah. We also have a note from John Kabibbo dated March 29th. One of his comments was the design engineer should state in writing if the existing detention system has the capacity to handle the runoff from the additional impervious area, or if site changes will be made to attenuate the additional runoff. Did you
And I responded to that. You want to comment on that, Jen? Or
Yeah, I
you want
didn't
me to-
Yeah, when he reviewed it, he reviewed the plans. I guess he missed the drainage narrative that was in the letter that Dana sent as part of the second submission, so that is in there.
Once I pointed out to John the cover letter that included the drainage narrative, he said, "Oh, that's all I was looking for." So
That's good.
He did give us another email saying he was satisfied.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't see that one. Anybody have any other questions or comments, or? So it's 3 more sand towers, it's gonna be 4 towers total. Okay. Anybody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion if you like. All right. I move that we approve Inland Wetland Watercourse Agency's IW number 588, 243 Shaker Road. Whereas the Enfield Inland Wetland and Watercourse Agency has received an application to add 3 additional sand towers and expand the front entry vestibule located at 243 Shaker Road. Yankee Casting Company Incorporated owner applicant, map 95, lot 6, I-2 zone. And whereas the agency has determined that the proposed site improvements will not have a negative impact on wetlands or watercourses, now therefore it be it resolved, the Enfield Inland Wetland and Watercourses Agency hereby approves the addition of 3 additional sand towers and the expansion of the front entry vestibule located at 243 Shaker Road, Yankee Casting Company Incorporated owner applicant, map 95, lot 6, I-2 zone, with the following conditions of approval. Our normal general conditions and a site-specific condition of that the silt fence must be put in place to protect the wetlands from the casting sand pile in construction taking place on site.
I would like to see added that the silt fence will remain in place until such time as all construction is completed and the sand pile, the casting sand pile is completely removed.
Yeah. Including that.
Sorry.
And I think that's really it.
Construction.
Do we want to?
I don't know if you want to amend the resolution to include that there are other minor site improvements that you're approving as part of this, with the drainage change and the other small concrete pads that are added and sidewalks.
Isn't that already in our?
I think in the resolution, it just said the vestibule was
Okay, all right.
expanded.
Yes, so I will amend that to include the other minor changes, including the already placed drainage pipes,
The sidewalks.
sidewalks, to the paved areas for safety and.
Utility pads.
And the utility pads as required by the electric company,
Yeah,
and that's it, right?
yeah, AC on concrete pad, yeah.
That's all? Okay.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Donna,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Virginia, yes. Carrie Ann,
Yes.
Marie? Yes. Kelly?
Yes.
6 in favor, motion passes. Thank you very much, Sheldon.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Yeah,
I'm trying to find the pictures.
yeah, I didn't bring it with me.
That's good you said that. Because they could have taken it.
Yeah, I left it. I didn't bring it. So now if we could have, it's applications to be received as our next item, which we don't have any. But I would like to in place put in, I didn't write down your name, at 57 Kimberly Drive. Yeah, could you come forward? Thank you.
Dean and Tracy.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I didn't
That's okay.
write down your name. So again, if you just state your name and address for the record. that'd be
Tracy
great.
Clark, 57 Kimberly Drive.
Kimberly Drive, okay. Good. So, trying to see if I have that paperwork with me today. I don't think so.
From me?
No, that we had.
Here.
Yeah, we regarding it.
Okay, I hadn't turned anything in yet, so you couldn't have it.
Can you tell us what's your intention, what you're doing back there?
I am doing some landscaping in the backyard. My slope is disappearing on the back of my house. So there's less than 3 feet at the end of my garage right now,
Remember this?
Okay, so,
where it was
so,
about 5 feet when I bought the house less than 5 years ago.
okay, what are you doing specifically to do that?
Well, my husband dug a trench, put in some drainage stone on the lower tier of the yard, and then we put in these concrete blocks as a retainer wall. There's 2 by 2 by 4, and there's 2 tiers of those. So from there, we're putting in dirt and trying to moderate that slope, because right now it's kind of steep. There's 2 tiers on the back of my yard, so the house is here.
Escarpments.
This first tier goes like this, and then there's another tier that comes out quite a bit before it goes down to probably another 200 feet before the river.
So because we have some pictures.
Yeah.
First of all, where's the soil coming from?
Where's it coming from?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
landscaper.
Pardon?
Pardon me?
The landscaper?
Where are they getting it from?
I would have to ask that.
Yeah.
That's one of the big concerns, because you're so near the wetlands.
Okay.
If you don't know what's in the soil, we don't, and it could be contaminants in that soil.
Okay.
And you can risk the escarpments if it goes just the right way in the
Yep.
wrong place. the whole thing will collapse and you're down further with your house.
Well, I might add that the previous homeowners had put in a retaining wall that I do have pictures of.
Is that that look like railroad ties?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was another concern because that's in itself could be a contaminant.
Well, from what I can tell, and I'm not an engineer, but this wall, in order to put this wall in with these cross beams, and I have pictures, they had to have dug the land out to put that wall in.
Yeah, so you guys could share that.
And
We'll
so
share this one.
what I believe happened is it exacerbated the erosion problem. It was all covered with vegetation when we bought the house, so we couldn't see all of that retaining wall. Actually, only could see the first tier of that retaining wall, and there's 2 more tiers.
Did you remove the vegetation?
No, it died back. They weren't perennials, they were just annuals. So most of it just died back. There was a couple of perennials, don't misunderstand. There's a red burning bush and a few, but certainly not enough to stop the erosion.
Right, right.
The other concern is that I would think that the landscaper who you have doing this should know that they would have to come before the wetlands.
They should have some kind of plan.
I didn't know it was a wetland, so I'm not sure he would have known it was a wetland.
Well, he should know that it's escarpment soil when it drops down like that. And he should have come in so that staff could talk with him and see if it's correctly engineered, his approach, and how he's going to do it. Normally, you can't touch escarpment soil. I understand your frustration because looking at your back deck, it looks quite close. And I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that in the past, people have dumped things over and it's compromised the escarpments. And there was one lady in the mid to late 90s off of Raffia Road. The town made her give them a plan of how she was going to take everything out that she put in. It took her a couple of years to do it because it's very expensive, but I do know the town looks very cautiously at people who are not engineers doing escarpments. And I understand you're a homeowner, so you're not expected to know that.
Right.
Shame on your landscaper, though.
Okay, I'll be sure and
Yeah,
talk
ask
to
him.
him.
Yeah.
I will. Did you want any of the photos that I have? I talked to Rick Rochelle and told him I had made 14 copies,
Oh, okay.
according to some of your application requirements.
Great, that'd be fine.
I didn't bring the 14 copies because he said I wasn't going to need it tonight.
Okay.
They're in the car, though, if you want me to go get them.
No, that's fine.
Do you want me to submit this, or?
You could, you could submit them to Jen.
And just
She'll-
don't let your
for the record.
landscaper put anything else back there until he's talked to.
He hasn't been back since. He
Yeah.
hasn't been back since.
All right. The only thing though, it looks like the silt fence
Failing.
is failing.
Yeah.
And in some places it's buried. That needs to be corrected immediately, especially with the rain coming.
Do you know what silt fence is?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
We just
wanna
assume.
overwhelm
Yeah.
Can I come up there and see where it's
You
failing?
can. Yeah. See this? You can see it just poking up, and there's none through here.
Right, right.
And even this is failing in some areas.
Okay, so this is true
Yeah.
down. Yep.
So there's a specific way to put it in so it actually does the job it's supposed to do.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen with the rain that I see in the forecast for the next couple of weeks, you could lose all this. It could actually exasperate the problem. Because there's a lot of large rocks in here too, and as soon as the soil is washed out away from those, that's going downhill.
This side is intended to have rocks and trap rock on top. That's not going to be landscaped in the end. That's just going to stay rocks. On the other side of the yard, we intend on putting loam and plantings and grass. And that way it'll stop that erosion.
All right. Yeah,
Kevin,
that-
isn't there a certain type of netting
Yeah.
that's made specifically for
rock?
erosions to
Yes.
hold it in place?
Yeah.
You might want to ask.
Not the silt fence.
Well,
No.
no, this is right on top of the soil. There is.
It stabilizes it.
It's a stabilizing mat that's basically, it's straw, and then it's interwoven with like a mesh fabric.
What is that called?
I'm not even sure the name. Jane would know, right?
Yeah, she's on here.
Can we phone a friend?
You're saying he should put that on?
You need to do something to stabilize that soil.
So during the rain, during this period that
Yeah.
we're working on, not
Yeah.
grading it at this point?
No.
Yeah, you before they can do any, they or you can do any more construction, you need to come before us with a application. But we're requiring now that you stabilize what's there
So it
to
doesn't
protect
fall.
it from going any farther and causing more damage to your backyard. Because the way that they left this is
Not good.
not good at all.
Well, they left the property the minute they got a cease and
Yeah,
desist.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know what he could have done when he was given that cease and desist, other than leave it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine, that's
Yeah,
fine,
right,
that's
right,
fine.
You probably won't get him back either.
Yeah, she has to mark them first.
Do you want me to bring the other 14 copies up then?
Not right now,
Hold on to,
yeah, not
we'll
right
see
now.
him next time.
Yeah, okay, you come again.
You can drop him off with staff
Okay.
tomorrow or the
Yes,
next
that's
day.
what Rick had said.
Yeah,
So the application itself has been completed, but the checklist has not.
okay, so what's the checklist? And that's you're
The
having issues with?
checklist really just, it says all the elements that you need to submit as part of an application. We normally require not only the application and the fee, but the narrative and a site plan set showing where the wetlands are and any improvements to the property that you're making. Are you concerned about
Site plan, maybe?
maybe the site plans?
Site plans, yes.
So your landscaper should be able to provide you with that.
I
Jen,
don't have the resources to hire
Have
an
you
engineer.
talked to
No, no,
John
no, no,
Cabibbo
no,
about this? Engineering gets very involved in escarpments.
This came in as enforcement first.
Yep.
And I do believe that Rick talked to John Cabibbo, but I'm not exactly sure what the result of their
Yeah,
conversation
you'll want to
was.
get John's feedback now
Yep.
that you have an application, because it's very important that it's done correctly.
Yep.
Right. So your landscaper didn't give you any drawings whatsoever of what they
What he's gonna
intended
do?
to do, or in terms of,
No, well, we as the homeowners are planning to finish it off. He's just putting in the fill, and then
Oh,
we're
then
going
you're
to
gonna
do all the
finish it.
plantings and everything after that.
So I'm sure staff would be able to help you just like draw a picture of,
Yeah.
for the site plan. It doesn't have to be
And John
elaborate.
can
It
look
doesn't
at
have to be elaborate.
the degree of slope.
No,
That's
no, they don't have to
important.
do that.
Yep, we can do that if it's acceptable to
Yeah.
you that we use the GIS wetlands
Yeah, that's fine.
map that the adopted
I think that's a
wetlands map.
wonderful idea.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
So I can work with Rick on that?
Yep.
Rick and
Yep,
Jen?
or planning
Jen,
staff. I'm the liaison for wetlands, so.
Okay.
Yeah. She can help you draw something up.
And Jennifer,
Yeah.
Yep.
on the GIS system?
Yep.
Yeah, you could set some time up with her and she could help you.
And that's to create the plans?
Yeah. They don't have to be real elaborate.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll
Because honestly,
she'll
this
know.
checklist kind of scared me.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's for like the project you just
In
saw.
fact, I haven't slept in about 2 weeks, just so you know.
Oh,
no,
no,
no.
no. The only reason we were asking you to come is you
friend.
would not want to wake up one morning and find yourself at the bottom.
That's what I'm afraid of prior to even
Well,
touching it.
exactly. So it needs to be done correctly. It's not that it can't be done, but it just needs to be done correctly.
Okay, so, the checklist I'll work with?
Yes.
Jen with.
Yeah.
Do you want the application now or give it up?
No,
to
that
Rick?
would,
all.
that would
That
go,
comes through the planning office, so if
Go to
you,
Rick then.
yeah, if you bring it in,
Okay.
yeah, bring it in, the whole pile.
Just set up some time with Jen because everybody's busy and you want her undivided attention.
Sure.
yep.
Can I have your phone number?
Yeah, I'll give it to you after class, or after my class. I mean, after the meeting, sorry. It's been a long day.
somebody's going to have detention, just telling you.
Probably me. Any more questions?
I think we're good for now, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, you'll be fine.
Thank you
You'll
for
be
coming
fine.
in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for working with staff.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you for working with me.
of course. I
Is this your copy or Jen's?
don't know where it
Oh,
came
it's
from.
yours. Oh.
I think it's Jen's. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is a termination of permit needs, which I don't believe you have any.
We have a couple that are coming in, though. that you should see on your agenda for next meeting. So one for a timber
Is
harvest.
one of them the
and-
farmer?
No, we reached out to the farmer. He has not gotten back to us.
Oh, okay.
Well, if he's watching tonight, he really should get in touch with staff so he can have his bridge and,
Yes, to get that all
Yeah.
taken
Done.
care of. Yes.
thanks, Jen.
Yeah. The other question, I guess, Ashley Stewart from Connecticut Department of Engineering, I guess I never got back to you.
Yeah, well, I heard from her today. They said that they do not have the resources to send someone from DEEP here, but they do want to hear any questions or concerns you have about what's going on over there. I've gotten back to her and asked if she could actually send the contractor even, just to give us some more information. So now we're waiting to see if that is
Yeah, we just
something.
want to know what was in it. That's a big
Yeah,
thing.
and know what's
Yeah.
going on and what they plan on doing and how they
Yeah.
plan on finishing it once it's
So.
done, and, yeah.
So I'll keep you
Maybe
posted.
they
if we
could
hear
send
back.
you an email and you could give it to staff. I mean, if they're shorthanded and they can't come talk to us, maybe they can just send you some documentation.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah. We intend on working on some sort of either getting someone here to present to you or getting enough information to make a presentation for you. And then any questions, comments, we can certainly gather and send to DEEP as advisory.
Yeah, that'd be
So.
great. Okay, good. So that's all that pile. Next, we have any reports from anybody?
One thing I'd like to do is, and I know we discussed it a couple months ago, going over our regulations versus the model regs. Jenny and I were going to do that. I'd like to revive that. And,
I'm available whenever you are. Just block some time off and let me know.
okay.
Okay.
Maybe we can get that done before the next meeting, if not the one after.
Yeah.
So we can get a draft of, you know,
Any regulations?
Yep.
right.
Yeah, if you want, we did look into that actually earlier this week. If you wanted, we can send you what we have.
Yeah.
That would
be
be
good.
fantastic.
And
Yep.
I have the state regs.
So do I.
Used.
That'd be great.
Occupational hazard.
Yes.
Okay, do the Skinner River, and I guess that's it.
Yep, I think
I
we've
move
gone
that
over.
we.
Wait,
ad-
don't wait.
oh,
See if she has anything.
No, we don't have any formal applications yet in the office other than the determinations, so those are the only things, and we'll keep you posted on DEEP and the farmer on Simon Road. And that's it.
Okay, that'd be good, thank you. Okay,
I move that we adjourn the
You can.
meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting's adjourned.